two stories coming out of Denver. And there is a lot to talk about because these are two very different situations that show just how quickly things can change in the NFL. The first story involves a pretty significant roster decision after an injury, and unfortunately, it is the kind of news nobody wants to hear during this part of the year. The second story goes in a completely different direction because Denver is bringing in a young player who has been fighting for an opportunity to prove that he belongs in this league. So today, we have two Broncos stories. One is about a season coming to an abrupt stop and the roster moves that followed. The other is about a new opportunity beginning. And when you put both situations together, you really see how brutal and unpredictable roster building can be in the NFL. We're going to get into both stories today, starting with that injury situation and then breaking down the new addition because there are some details here that I think Broncos Country needs to know. But before we get into it, hit that like button if you enjoy talking Broncos football with me. I'm Andrew, and this channel is still new, so we're chasing our first 1,000 subscribers. If you are a real Broncos fan and you want to be part of this community from the beginning, subscribe to the channel. Let's get to 1,000 together and build something here for Broncos Country. Now, let's get into the first story because the Broncos made several roster moves. And the biggest one involves defensive lineman Matt Henningsen. Denver placed Henningsen on season-ending injured reserve, and that's a rough development, especially when you remember the path this guy has already taken just to keep his NFL career moving forward. Henningsen went down during an individual pass rush drill in practice, and he had to be carted off the field. Whenever you see a player leave practice that way, your mind immediately starts going to the worst possibilities. Unfortunately, this time the news ended up being serious enough that his season is over. And I hate seeing this. Man, you can talk about roster spots, depth charts, competition, and all of that, but there's still a human being behind every one of these moves. These guys spend months preparing for an opportunity, and then one moment in practice can completely change their season. Henningsen was trying to establish himself again in Denver after returning to the Broncos on a one-year deal in August of last year. Remember, this is a player the Broncos originally drafted out of Wisconsin in the 6th round of the 2022 NFL Draft. His rookie contract was a 4-year deal worth about $3.8 million, and he actually got legitimate playing time early in his career. Henningsen appeared in 34 games for Denver over his first 2 seasons and recorded 40 tackles, 1 sack, and 2 passes defended. But he didn't appear in a game during the 2024 season, and then Denver waived him in August of last year. Eventually, he found his way back to the Broncos. So, this injury is especially frustrating because Henningsen was fighting for another opportunity on this defensive line. And now that opportunity has been taken away from him for the season. And his move wasn't the only roster decision Denver made. The Broncos also released defensive back Sam Webb and signed defensive back Ricardo Hallman in corresponding moves. That's the reality of this time of year. One injury can create a chain reaction throughout the roster. Somebody goes down. Somebody gets released. Somebody else gets signed. Suddenly, the competition looks completely different. Hopefully, Henningsen can attack the recovery process and get himself another opportunity. Because regardless of where somebody sits on the depth chart, you never want to see a season end this way. But Denver wasn't done making moves because the second story today is about a new face getting an opportunity with this Broncos offense. According to Mike Kliss, the Broncos signed undrafted wide receiver Kyer Duplessis to a contract on Friday, and Duplessis has had an interesting road to this point. He originally committed to Coastal Carolina in 2022, but he redshirted during his freshman year. He stayed there for 4 years before transferring to Delaware, where he continued his college career. And now he's getting his NFL opportunity with Denver. Duplessis also participated in the Los Angeles Chargers rookie minicamp during the 2026 draft cycle, but he was released after only a short stay. He's also had a recent minicamp stint with the Seattle Seahawks. So when you look at this signing, nobody should immediately start acting like Denver just found a guaranteed starter. That's not what this is. This is about opportunity. It's about bringing a young receiver into the building, seeing how quickly he can learn, seeing what he can show the coaching staff, and giving him a chance to compete. And there is some college production worth mentioning here. During his college career, Duplessis recorded 83 receptions for 1,172 yards, with 11 touchdowns. Those numbers at least give you something to work with. He's shown that he can produce when given opportunities. And now the challenge becomes proving that he belongs at the NFL level. And for Duplessis, this is one of those moments where every single practice rep matters. Every route matters. Every catch matters. Special teams can matter. Even the little things coaches notice when most fans aren't watching can make the difference between sticking around and being the next name involved in a roster move. That's what makes this part of the NFL calendar so fascinating and so brutal at the same time. On one side, you have Matt Henningsen seeing his season come to an end because of an injury. Sam Webb is released as Denver adjusts the roster. Ricardo Hallman comes into the picture. And on the other side of the football, Kyer Duplessis gets the phone call he's been waiting for and another chance to prove himself in the NFL. That's 4 different players, 4 different situations. And for careers moving in different directions because of a handful of roster decisions. And for the Broncos, the message is pretty simple. This roster is still being shaped. Denver is evaluating depth, reacting to injuries, and continuing to look for players who can help this team. Now, the question is what happens next? Can Ricardo Hallman take advantage of his opportunity? Can Kyer Duplessis make enough of an impression to stick around? And eventually, can Matt Henningsen recover from this injury and work his way back onto an NFL field? Those are the names I'll be watching because sometimes these smaller roster moves end up becoming much more interesting than they initially appear. And when you look at these 2 stories together, I think they really capture what this moment is all about for Denver. The Broncos are still working through the roster, still evaluating players, and still trying to make sure they have the right depth heading into the season. For Matt Henningsen, unfortunately, the focus now turns toward recovery and what comes after this injury. For Ricardo Hallman, a door has opened. For Sam Webb, the next step becomes finding another opportunity. And for Kyer Duplessis, this could be the chance he has been waiting for. That is life in the NFL. Things can change incredibly fast. One player can receive devastating news, while another gets the phone call that could change his career. Now it comes down to what these guys do with whatever comes next. And as Broncos fans, all we can do is keep watching, because every roster decision matters when you are trying to build a team capable of competing at the highest level. Broncos Country, I really want to hear what you think about both stories. What was your reaction to the Matt Henningsen injury? What do you think about Ricardo Hallman coming in? And what do you think about giving Kyer Duplessis an opportunity? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I want this to be a place where Broncos fans can actually talk football together. And if you enjoyed the video, hit that like button. This channel is still new and our first goal is 1,000 subscribers. So if you genuinely believe in the future of the Denver Broncos and you want to be here as we follow this team day after day, subscribe and help us reach 1,000 people. I want the first 1,000 people here to be real Broncos fans who can say they were part of this community from the beginning. Take care of yourselves, Broncos Country. Go Broncos.